In the infamous words of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. Hey, this is Joe Big House Ken, and you are inside the house on another episode of Words Win Wednesday. On this episode, we're going to talk about winning, the number one KPI in all of sports. Don't let these coaches tell you key performance indicators like vertical jump, long jump, 10-yard fly, 40-yard dash, or, miles per hour, max acceleration, max velocity, VBT training, force plate data, RSI, you name it, and I'm going to tell you, none of it matters if you're not winning. That's right. Winning trumps everything. I hate to tell you, if you are any staff member that represents a team or an individual athlete, all I'm going to tell you is a win, we all win. And if it's a loss, we all lose. First losers, guess what? Suck just as much as the last loser. And as much as winning matters, let me tell you what kills you is if you're the first loser. And yes, I've been the first loser. In 2015, the Carolina Panthers stormed through the regular season with a 15-1 record. We went through the playoffs unscathed to reach Super Bowl 50 against the Denver Broncos. Heading into that game, all I'm going to tell you is we were extremely confident that we were going to bring home the Lombardi Trophy, and every one of us on the team, regardless of position or staff member status, would be considered a Super Bowl champion. It wasn't meant to be. Therefore, we're the first losers. And I've said this out loud, even on interviews with NFL teams, that if you don't win the Super Bowl in the NFL, everybody else sucks. Hate to say it that way, but that's the way I believe it's to be true when you're chasing the jewelry, aka the ship. And everybody in sports wants to be crowned a champion. Now, if we circle back and we talk about first losers, that doesn't really resonate with some of the positivity that I want to talk about when I use my mantra, words win, because you always want to look for the positive moments regardless. In the heat of the moment, I'm just going to tell you, losing sucks when you're chasing the ultimate goal. And in team sports, as we know in the States, World Series champion in baseball, world champion in basketball, and the Super Bowl champs in football are keys to the team sports. Obviously, in the individual sports, whether it's a golf championship, one of the majors in tennis, etc. In my new sport, Strongman, one of the big 3 or 4, now that it's possible that the strongest man on earth will be coming back in 2027 to give us 4 majors. If you're not first, you're last. I'm here to tell you we've got to rethink that after the heartbreak settles and you can reminisce on the successes that you had that put you in a position to go after the championships. Now, I'm not going to sit here and cry over spilt milk. I congratulate the Denver Broncos for beating the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50. And let me tell you, the hardest thing I had to do in coaching, not really, but super hard, is crossing the field to shake the strength coach from the Denver Broncos' hand and wish him congrats on getting the ring that I wanted. That's what you have to do in sports. You have to show good sportsmanship, win or lose, and I want to be a professional and I want to be able to be a man of integrity and be able to be what I believe is a words win moment, that I had to suck it up. I really didn't want to go over, but I had to get it done. Now, 2 weeks before, I was a champion. That's right. We won the NFC Championship, and that's what I have to reflect back now, being away from football for 6 years. First loser, that's correct. Didn't win the ship, that's correct. Didn't win the Lombardi, that's correct. But Our team had a tremendous amount of success that year because I can tell you, even though we were the first loser, and if you ain't first, you're last, there was 30 other teams that may have wished they could be first loser. And as we all know, we all are chasing the jewelry, and bang, here's the jewelry that a lot of NFL teams and a lot of NFL players and coaches don't really want, is the conference championship ring that you get for winning the championship that almost tells you you won the Super Bowl. What I've learned over time is a lot of coaches and players don't wear the conference championship ring because they see that as a losing the Super Bowl. And I did too. But what I found out over time, and reflecting back on my words win mantra, is what's the positiveness of it? A lot of people wish they could have went to the Super Bowl, and a lot of people wish they had a conference championship ring that have coached or played in the NFL. It's extremely hard to do. Team sports, a lot of things have to fall into place for teams to be super successful and culminate their seasons with a championship trophy. Injuries. Again, KPI, people won't care how many people get hurt if you win a Super Bowl. I can tell you that. And they don't really care if you're perfectly healthy and you don't win any games. Again, KPI number one, winning. If you're not first, you're last. That's right. I'm going to giggle. Just remember, as time passes by and you're remembering the good times, they always outweigh the bad times. And you should pat yourselves on the back for a job well done, because in the end, you did achieve a tremendous amount of success. 15-1, no slouch of a regular season. Beating the Seahawks and the Cardinals in the playoffs in a pretty dominating fashion should be commended, and we should feel great about that. I'll be honest with you, as a strength coach, you know what's going to happen in the Super Bowl? We didn't play good. Sometimes they'll blame the strength coach, right? And I'll be willing to take that heat. We were not very good at the Super Bowl. I honestly believe we peaked against the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. 2 weeks after that fact, we didn't play our best football, possibly the worst football we played the entire year outside of the loss to the Falcons when we were 14-0 and we wound up losing around, I think that was around Christmas. Without going too crazy into it, let's circle back into individual sports, because this is where, if you're not first, you're last, still has some viability. But in individual sports, one of the things that kind of helps smooth over things if you're not the champion is podium finishes. That's right. I really believe that. I've seen it, watching it in Strongman, watching the Olympic Games, etc. When you get an Olympic gold medal, I don't think there's anything greater in individual or team sports, but mostly in the individual sports. But you come in second or third and get a silver or a bronze medal in the Olympics, you're pretty impressive. If you come on the podium at World's Strongest Man, you're considered one of the strongest men in the world. If you come in the podium of the strongest man on earth, you can easily say you're one of the strongest men in the world. If you come in the podium of the Arnold Strong Woman Classic, you can say you're one of the strongest women in the world. If you come on the podium at the Rogue Invitational, both men and women, you can say you're one of the strongest men or women in the world. But we're all chasing the win. But this is where I will say, in individual sports where the podium gets recognized, sometimes if you're not first, you're last, doesn't really come into play. Now, we train to win. We have to train to win. Every athlete needs to train to win regardless of who shows up and regardless if someone's the favorite or not. We also train to put ourselves in position that when we enter the last event, we have put ourselves in position to be on that podium. That's some of my philosophy when I train individual athletes who have the opportunity to chase wins and chase podiums, because that's how you're going to be recognized in your sport when it's all said and done. A little different in certain sports where you have a champion and then a second place, and they both get trophies, we don't ever remember who came in second place. But I do know who dominates the championships in individual sports because they are the headliners. So let's circle all the way back to words win philosophy, and if you're not first, you're last, the Ricky Bobby philosophy. I do believe in team sports, you should have that thought process is if you're not first, you're last, because in the end, the ultimate goal is to win the championship. And that's being the last team standing, winning the final game of the competitive year. That's it. That's the number one KPI in team sports. In individual sports, the number one KPI is winning the championship. Now, if you're not first, you're last. There is some consolation to being on the podiums. But the great ones who always dominate and want to win and want to be in the conversations of the GOAT, they don't like the podiums much. I worked with the GOAT, Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw doesn't know where any of his second or third place trophies are. He only knows where the titles are. And I can understand that. That's what makes him the GOAT. And that's what separates the high overachievers versus those who want to be successful. It's no different in any sport. The separation is minimal, but there is a separation between the all-time greats, the Hall of Famers, the guys who make the roster, the guys who make All-Pro, the guys who make the Pro Bowl, and the guys who make the practice squad in my sport of football. There's the guys who chase the podium, there's the guys who chase the title, and then there's guys who just happy to make the finals. That, for them, is their own personal championship, which circles back to words win. So I have to look at it from a different perspective as a coach. Winning matters. Never going to shy away from that, and I want to win. Luckily for me, I've won more than I've ever lost, so I feel like I'm in a good place. I do have close enough Super Bowl participant. No one wants the participation trophy, but I will tell you again, and I'll show you once again, that's not a bad participation trophy if you've ever worked in the NFL. Hey, like and subscribe. Another personal story from me on Words Win Wednesday. Thanks for viewing. And as always, words win. See you next week. Peace.